My mom sent me away after my sister sabotaged my car to kill me, whispering on the phone, "Sweetheart, I'm sorry, but you're safer away." When I asked her why she couldn't just stop Maya, she trembled and said, "Your sister's obsession has become dangerous." I walked out without looking back. That was 5 years ago. Yesterday, she called sobbing, begging me to tell her how to fix it. I was always the responsible twin. Not officially, of course. My parents would never say that out loud, but when my sister Maya and I stood next to each other, people always noticed her first. Maya was born charming, athletic, and magnetic. I was born cautious, bookish, and forgettable. When we turned 9, my parents rented out a country club and surprised her with a gold necklace. I wasn't allowed to attend, and for me, we had takeout at home. And since my dad forgot to pick up a cake, I ended up just making a wish on a birthday candle stuck in a donut. Or every school morning, my mom would make Maya French toast with fresh berries. Mine was usually instant oatmeal eaten standing up with a "don't be late." The message was clear: charisma equals worth, and I didn't have it until college happened. Because it didn't just change my circumstances. It transformed everything. By the time I was 21, I'd landed a tech internship, developed confidence, and started getting opportunities I never had before. At first, I thought it was some fluke that would disappear. I didn't even know how to handle success. But suddenly, out of nowhere, I got a full-time offer. They weren't joking. No one was laughing. And that's when it clicked. I really had changed. So I accepted. I don't even know how Maya found out about it, but she did. So that same day, I came home to my mom telling me I had to turn it down. When I asked why, she said, "It's making Maya insecure. You have to consider family." I stared at her, with zero intention of rejecting my dream job, but I did try my best to downplay it because I still wanted us to be close, to support each other. But this wasn't enough for her. On multiple occasions, Maya hacked my LinkedIn while I slept, just so she could message my boss saying I wanted to resign for personal reasons. She even tried telling HR I lied on my resume. Obviously, her schemes never worked, but she never gave up. Then came my first big presentation. I wore this navy suit that actually made me feel really professional, and even our dad said I looked successful. Maya was silent for the rest of the month, then she finally snapped. I was in the middle of my morning drive when I realized the steering wasn't responding. A concrete barrier loomed ahead, and my blood froze. I genuinely thought I was going to die, and I would've, if not for the emergency brake that I managed to pull. I knew immediately that Maya was the one behind this, but I wasn't angry or sad, just terrified. I drove home immediately, and I was met with my mom and Maya sitting in the kitchen. "Maya, you psycho, you could have called me." Maya just shrugged, but I could see genuine fear on my mom's face, so I continued. "Mom, Maya just tampered with my car. I could have died." My hands were shaking uncontrollably, but she just sat there, face completely pale. "Mom, don't you understand?" Then, she finally spoke. "Jenna, pack your things immediately." I stood there for a full minute completely stunned. She didn't say anything else, just called my cousin and told her I would be arriving for an extended stay. At that point, I was too shocked to keep arguing. I just threw my essential items and laptop into a duffel bag before walking out to the car waiting outside. My mind was racing, but 5 minutes later, everything became clear, because that's when she called me. "Sweetheart, I'm sorry, but you're safer away," she was whispering, voice trembling. "Your sister's obsession has become dangerous." Turns out, a month ago when my dad complimented me, my sister tampered with his brakes too. My mom was too scared to involve police, because Maya threatened that if any authorities got involved, she would frame us both. Suddenly, it all clicked together. I could tell from her tone that she realized her mistakes with Maya too, but I didn't care about that anymore. You see, Maya now believed she was untouchable, that nothing could stop her, that I was the weak one, and I was about to show her just how wrong she was about everything. My cousin's apartment became my sanctuary, though Maya's digital harassment started immediately. She created fake social media accounts to spread lies about me, sent anonymous emails to my coworkers claiming I was mentally unstable, and even tried hacking into my work systems. I changed all my passwords, enabled two-factor authentication everywhere, and started documenting everything. The first week at my cousin's place, I barely slept. Every car door slamming made me jump. Every unknown number calling sent my heart racing. Maya bombarded me with texts alternating between threats and fake apologies. I blocked her number, but she just used burner phones. The messages grew increasingly unhinged, detailing how she'd fix our family dynamic once I was gone. My workplace became another battleground. Anonymous complaints flooded HR about my unprofessional behavior. Someone kept ordering food deliveries to the office under my name, refusing to pay. My computer mouse would mysteriously disappear, important files got corrupted, and my parking spot was repeatedly taken by cars with no plates. Security footage always seemed to malfunction during these incidents. I started arriving at work an hour early, parking in different spots, and backing up everything to multiple cloud services. My supervisor, Nancy, pulled me aside after noticing my paranoid behavior. I gave her a sanitized version of family troubles, and she quietly moved my desk to a more secure area near her office. Maya's tactics evolved. She impersonated me online, applying for credit cards and loans. She posted my resume on sketchy job sites with my personal phone number. She even created dating profiles using my photos, giving out my work address to random men. I spent hours each day doing damage control, filing fraud reports, and explaining to confused strangers that I hadn't actually invited them to lunch. The breaking point came when Maya somehow got my new address. I found her sitting in her car outside my cousin's building at 3 a.m., just watching. When I confronted her through the window, she smiled and held up her phone, showing a photo of me sleeping from the night before. She'd been inside. My cousin hadn't locked the balcony door. I called the police, but Maya drove away before they arrived. Without evidence of breaking and entering, they couldn't do anything. The officer suggested a restraining order, but I knew Maya's threat about framing us wasn't empty. She'd already proven capable of attempted murder. My cousin installed new locks, security cameras, and an alarm system. We varied our routines, checked for tracking devices, and never posted our locations online. I started learning about cybersecurity, personal protection, and legal self-defense. Maya had forced me to become someone I never thought I'd be. Calculating, suspicious, always planning 3 steps ahead. Work became my only escape, though Maya tried poisoning that too. She called claiming to be my doctor, saying I had a contagious disease. She filed false workplace injury claims in my name. She even showed up once, pretending to be a client, but security recognized her from the photo I'd circulated. My mom called weekly, voice always strained. She'd moved to her sister's house temporarily, too scared to stay home with Maya. Dad refused to believe how bad things had gotten, insisting Maya just needed needed therapy. Their marriage was crumbling, another casualty of Maya's obsession. I started building a case file, screenshots of every threat, recordings of voicemails, documentation of each incident. My cousin's friend, a paralegal, helped me understand what would hold up legally. We weren't planning to go to court, but I needed leverage. Maya's attacks became more desperate. She tried to access my bank accounts, called my company's biggest clients with lies about our services, and even attempted to cancel my health insurance. Each scheme required hours to unravel, eating into my work performance and mental health. 3 months into this nightmare, I discovered Maya had been recording our family for years. She'd hidden cameras throughout our childhood home, documenting every moment that made her look like a victim. Edited carefully, these videos could easily support her threat to frame us. The revelation made me physically sick, but it also gave me an idea. If Maya could document everything, so could I. I started recording every interaction, every phone call, every suspicious incident. I hired a private investigator to follow her, gathering evidence of her stalking and harassment. It cost most of my savings, but I needed ammunition. The investigator uncovered something unexpected. Maya had done this before. In high school, she'd targeted a classmate who'd won a scholarship she wanted. That girl's family had moved away after mysterious accidents and social media harassment. The pattern was clear. I wasn't her first victim, just her most persistent target. This knowledge changed everything. I wasn't dealing with a sister having a breakdown. I was facing a calculated predator who'd perfected her methods over years. The investigator found 2 other victims, both too scared to speak publicly, but willing to share their experiences privately. Their stories mirrored mine: escalating harassment, family manipulation, and threats of false accusations. I realized I couldn't just defend myself anymore. I had to go on the offensive, but it had to be smart, legal, and leave Maya no room to retaliate. I started studying her patterns, her weaknesses, her dependencies. Maya might be cunning, but she was also predictable. Her narcissism would be her downfall. The investigator's findings gave me a framework to work with. Maya's previous victims had all made the same mistake. They'd tried to escape without fighting back. I wouldn't repeat their error. My first move involved creating decoy social media accounts under variations of my name. When Maya inevitably found and attacked them, I documented every interaction. She fell for it immediately, spending hours crafting elaborate lies about a person who didn't exist. Meanwhile, my real accounts remained secure and professional. Nancy noticed my improved focus at work. Without the constant interruptions from Maya's harassment, I excelled at my projects. She assigned me to lead a new client presentation, a career-defining opportunity. I knew Maya would find out and try to sabotage it, so I prepared accordingly. I fed false information through channels I knew Maya monitored. I mentioned the wrong date, wrong location, wrong client name in emails to my cousin, knowing Maya had somehow accessed her accounts. Sure enough, Maya showed up at the decoy location, dressed professionally, ready to impersonate me. Security cameras at the real venue captured her confused rage when she realized she'd been tricked. The actual presentation went flawlessly. Our client signed a multi-year contract, and Nancy promoted me to senior analyst. I celebrated quietly, knowing Maya would escalate once she learned about my success. She didn't disappoint. Within days, my apartment building's fire alarm went off at 2 a.m. Everyone evacuated, but I noticed something odd. Only our floor's alarm had triggered. Security footage showed a figure matching Maya's build near the alarm panel minutes before. She'd wanted to get me outside, vulnerable, in the middle of the night. I started varying my schedule dramatically. Some days I'd leave for work at 5 a.m., other days at noon. I'd take different routes, use ride shares instead of my car, sometimes work from coffee shops. Maya's attempts to track me became increasingly frantic. She'd wait outside my building for hours, only to discover I'd left through the service entrance. My cousin proved invaluable during this time. She'd pretend to be me, wearing my clothes and driving my car, leading Maya on wild goose chases across town. We documented every instance of Maya following the decoy, building our evidence file. The paralegal friend suggested I start a paper trail with authorities without formally pressing charges. I filed reports for identity theft, cyber harassment, and stalking. Each report created an official record, establishing a pattern of behavior. The officers couldn't act without formal complaints, but they noted the escalating nature of the incidents. Maya's frustration manifested in increasingly reckless behavior. She started showing up at my workplace during client meetings, claiming family emergencies. Security would escort her out, but the disruptions were affecting my reputation. Nancy understood the situation, but I could see her patience wearing thin. I decided to use Maya's narcissism against her. I created a fake company newsletter announcing my promotion, but with a crucial detail. It mentioned I'd be transferring to our Seattle office. The newsletter looked authentic, complete with company letterhead and executive signatures. I made sure it reached Maya through carefully orchestrated leaks. Her reaction was immediate and predictable. She booked flights to Seattle, researched apartments there, even applied for jobs in the area. While she focused on this false lead, I quietly solidified my position at the local office. Nancy approved my request for a private office with keycard access, citing security concerns. Mom's calls became more desperate. She reported that Maya had become obsessed with moving to Seattle, spending their savings on preparation for the move. Dad finally started noticing the financial drain, questioning where their money was going. The cracks in Maya's facade were showing. I learned from the investigator that Maya's previous victims had all tried to handle things alone. I wouldn't make that mistake. I quietly built a support network, trusted colleagues, my cousin's friends, even some clients who'd witnessed Maya's disruptions. They all agreed to document any interactions with her. The Seattle ruse bought me 3 weeks of peace. During that time, I implemented every security measure possible. I installed cameras in my car, carried a personal alarm, and even took self-defense classes. The instructor, a former police officer, taught me more than physical defense. He showed me how to document threats properly, how to establish patterns of behavior that courts would recognize. Maya returned from Seattle enraged. She'd discovered the deception when she tried to surprise me at the non-existent Seattle office. Her harassment resumed with doubled intensity. She slashed my tires, requiring expensive replacements. She sent explicit photos to my professional contacts, claiming I was running an escort service. She even tried to poison my reputation with our extended family, spinning tales of my supposed substance addiction and mental instability. Each attack required careful countermoves. I had mechanics document the tire damage. I worked with IT to trace the explicit emails back to Maya's IP address. I reached out to family members individually, sharing evidence of Maya's harassment. harassment. Some believed me, others remained skeptical, but I was building a coalition of support. The turning point came when Maya made a critical error. She attempted to access my work computer using stolen credentials. What she didn't know was that Nancy had authorized enhanced security monitoring on my accounts. Every keystroke was logged, every access attempt traced. Maya triggered multiple security alerts, and this time, it wasn't anonymous. Our IT department traced the breach to a specific location, a coffee shop near Maya's apartment. Security footage from the shop showed her clearly, using a laptop to attempt the breach. For the first time, we had indisputable evidence of her criminal behavior that didn't rely on family testimony. Nancy called me into her office. She laid out the evidence, her expression grave. The company could press charges for corporate espionage and attempted data theft. These were serious crimes with real consequences. She gave me 24 hours to decide whether to involve law enforcement officially. I spent that night weighing my options. Pressing charges would mean confronting Maya's threats about framing the family, but I'd spent months building a defensive case. Every threat she'd made was documented. Every false accusation had been disproven. Every instance of harassment was recorded. I called Mom that night. She was crying before I even explained the situation. Maya had grown increasingly unstable, she admitted. She'd found Maya's journal, filled with detailed plans to destroy my life. The entries went back years, documenting her resentment and planning. Mom finally understood the depth of Maya's obsession. She revealed something that changed everything. Maya had been in therapy as a child for similar behavior toward classmates. The records had been sealed, but they existed. If Maya tried to paint me as the aggressor, these historical documents would prove her pattern of behavior. Armed with this knowledge, I made my decision. But I wouldn't go through official channels yet. Instead, I'd give Maya one last chance to stop, using the leverage I'd built. I arranged a meeting through Mom, insisting it be in a public place with security cameras. Maya agreed, probably thinking she'd finally broken me. We met at a busy restaurant during lunch rush, ensuring plenty of witnesses. I placed a folder on the table between us. Inside were copies of everything: the IT security logs, the investigator's report on her previous victims, screenshots of every threat, documentation of every incident. The evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. Maya's face cycled through emotions as she reviewed the documents: rage, fear, disbelief, and finally, a cold calculation. She tried to maintain her composure, but I could see her hands shaking. For the first time in months, I had the upper hand. I explained her options clearly. She could stop all harassment immediately, seek professional help, and leave me alone permanently. Or I would submit this evidence to both law enforcement and her employer. The choice was hers, but she had 48 hours to decide. Maya tried to negotiate, to threaten, to manipulate, but I'd learned her tactics. I remained calm, referring back to the evidence whenever she tried to deflect. Other diners glanced our way occasionally, sensing the tension but not understanding its source. She made one last desperate play, pulling out her phone to show me the edited videos from our childhood. I responded by showing her my own phone, displaying the therapy records Mom had mentioned. Her face went white. She hadn't known those records existed or that I'd found them. The meeting ended with Maya taking the folder and leaving without another word. I stayed at the restaurant for another hour, documenting the encounter in my journal and backing up all my files to multiple secure locations. The next 48 hours were the longest of my life. I stayed with different friends each night, never sleeping in the same place twice. I carried pepper spray and kept my phone recording constantly, but Maya had gone silent. No texts, no emails, no surprise visits. The silence was almost more terrifying than her harassment. On the morning of the deadline, I received a single email from Maya. It contained no text, just an attachment, a signed agreement to cease all contact and seek professional help. I had my lawyer review it, confirm its legitimacy, and file it appropriately. But I knew better than to trust Maya's word alone. I maintained all my security measures, continued documenting everything, and kept my support network informed. Maya might have agreed to stop, but I'd learned that predators don't change overnight. The real test came 2 weeks later. Nancy announced my promotion publicly, complete with a substantial raise and expanded responsibilities. In the past, this would have triggered an immediate response from Maya, but there was nothing. No harassment, no sabotage attempts, no anonymous complaints. I allowed myself a small celebration with my cousin and close friends. We'd won this battle, but I remained vigilant. Maya's pattern suggested she'd test boundaries eventually, looking for weaknesses in my defenses. Sure enough, a month later, I noticed someone had been asking about me at my gym. The description matched Maya. She hadn't approached me directly, but she was testing the waters. I immediately informed the gym management, showing them Maya's photo and explaining the situation. They banned her from the premises and added her to their security watch list. This became our new dynamic. Maya would probe indirectly, trying to gather information or test my defenses. I would respond by closing whatever avenue she'd found, documenting her attempt, and reinforcing my boundaries. It was exhausting, but necessary. Mom reported that Maya had indeed started therapy, though she doubted its effectiveness. Maya was going through the motions to avoid legal consequences, not because she genuinely wanted to change. Dad had finally acknowledged the severity of the situation after seeing the evidence I'd compiled. Their marriage was strained but surviving. 3 months after our restaurant meeting, I made another strategic move. I applied for and received a restraining order based on the documented harassment. Maya hadn't technically violated our agreement, but her continued indirect monitoring constituted stalking. The judge, reviewing months of evidence, granted a comprehensive protection order. Maya was served at her workplace, a calculated move on my part. Her colleagues witnessed the service, ensuring she couldn't deny it happened or claim ignorance. The order prohibited her from coming within 500 feet of me, my home, or my workplace. It also banned all forms of contact, direct or indirect. The restraining order had an unexpected effect. Maya's employer, learning about the situation, placed her on administrative leave pending an investigation. Her carefully crafted professional image crumbled as colleagues distanced themselves. The consequences she'd tried to inflict on me were visiting her instead. I heard through family that Maya tried to spin the situation, claiming I was the aggressor who'd ruined her life, but the evidence spoke louder than her words. Even her closest friends began questioning her stories when faced with the documented truth. My life gradually stabilized. Work flourished without constant disruptions. I started dating someone Nancy introduced me to, though I was upfront about my security concerns. He understood and respected my boundaries, even offering to vary our date locations to avoid avoid patterns Maya might track. The investigator provided quarterly updates on Maya's activities. She'd lost her job and moved back with our parents. Her attempts to find new employment were hampered by the restraining order and the circumstances of her termination. She was experiencing the professional destruction she'd tried to orchestrate for me. I felt no satisfaction in her downfall, only relief that the immediate threat had passed. But I knew this wasn't over. People like Maya don't simply accept defeat. They regroup, plan, and wait for opportunities. I had to remain prepared for whatever came next. My cousin and I developed a long-term security protocol. We regularly updated passwords, monitored credit reports, and maintained awareness of our surroundings. What had started as crisis management became routine personal security. Maya had inadvertently taught me valuable lessons about self-protection. The paralegal friend helped me understand the legal implications of our situation. The restraining order was just paper unless Maya violated it, but each documented instance of indirect contact strengthened my position. We were building a case that would support stronger legal action if necessary. 6 months after the restaurant confrontation, I achieved something I'd thought impossible: a full week without thinking about Maya. I was in the middle of a major project at work, focused entirely on client needs and deliverables. It wasn't until Sunday evening that I realized I hadn't checked my security cameras or documented any incidents all week. This milestone marked a shift in my recovery. While I maintained security measures, they no longer dominated my thoughts. I was reclaiming my life, piece by piece. Maya's shadow still loomed, but it no longer defined my daily existence. Mom visited me for the first time since I'd left home. We met at a neutral location, a quiet cafe downtown. She looked older, worn down by the family drama. We talked about everything except Maya at first, reconnecting over coffee and shared memories of better times. Eventually, she brought up the subject I'd been avoiding. Maya was struggling, she said. Therapy wasn't working because Maya refused to engage honestly. She still maintained she was the victim, despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary. The therapist had suggested inpatient treatment, but Maya refused. I listened without comment, offering neither sympathy nor solutions. This wasn't my problem to solve. I'd protected myself and built a new life. Maya's recovery, or lack thereof, was her responsibility. Mom seemed to understand my position, though I could see the pain it caused her. We established new boundaries for our relationship. Mom could visit me, but she couldn't share information about my life with Maya. She couldn't pressure me to reconcile or forgive. Our relationship would exist independently of Maya's issues. Mom agreed, though I knew it would be difficult for her to maintain these boundaries. Dad reached out separately, his approach more practical. He wanted to understand how Maya had hidden her behavior for so long. I shared what I'd learned about her pattern of targeting perceived threats, her careful image management, and her skill at manipulation. He listened intently, finally seeing the daughter he'd overlooked for years. Our conversation revealed the depth of family dysfunction that had enabled Maya's behavior. The favoritism, the different standards, the willingness to sacrifice my needs for Maya's comfort. Dad apologized, genuinely remorseful for his role in creating this dynamic. It didn't erase the past, but it was a start. Work continued to provide stability and growth. Nancy promoted me again, this time to team lead. The position came with direct reports and higher visibility within the company. I'd achieved the professional success Maya had tried to destroy, and I'd done it through merit, not manipulation. My relationship deepened as well. My boyfriend understood the security measures weren't paranoia, but necessary precautions. He'd witnessed one of Maya's indirect attempts at contact, a strange woman asking about me at a restaurant we frequented. His support validated my experiences in a way family never had. The 1-year anniversary of leaving home approached. I reflected on the transformation this crisis had forced upon me. I'd evolved from a cautious, overlooked twin into a strategic, self-protective professional. Maya's attempts to destroy me had instead forged me into someone stronger. But strength came with costs. I struggled with trust, always analyzing motives and looking for hidden agendas. Hypervigilance had become second nature. My therapist worked with me on distinguishing reasonable caution from trauma responses. Recovery wasn't just about physical safety, but emotional healing. The investigator's latest report brought concerning news. Maya had been researching legal loopholes around restraining orders. She'd joined online forums for people who claimed to be falsely accused of stalking. She was building a narrative of victimhood, gathering strategies from others who'd faced similar restrictions. I prepared for the next phase of our conflict. Maya was planning something, and I needed to be ready. I consulted with a criminal attorney, understanding my options if Maya escalated. The lawyer reviewed my documentation, impressed by the thoroughness of my evidence collection. We developed contingency plans for various scenarios. My support network had evolved into a sophisticated early warning system. Colleagues, friends, neighbors, and service providers all knew to alert me to any suspicious inquiries. This distributed security meant Maya couldn't easily gather intelligence about my routines or vulnerabilities. The restraining order renewal date approached. I had to decide whether to extend it or let it expire. Maya hadn't violated it directly, but the indirect monitoring continued. The lawyer advised renewal, citing the pattern of behavior and recent online activity. I agreed, knowing it would anger Maya but prioritizing my safety. The renewal hearing provided an opportunity to update the court on Maya's continued obsession. The judge reviewed the investigator's reports, the documented indirect contact attempts, and Maya's online activity. She granted a 2-year extension with expanded provisions, including digital harassment and third-party contact. Maya attended the hearing, her first time seeing me in nearly a year. She'd changed physically, looking gaunt and angry. She tried to make eye contact, but I focused on the judge. Her lawyer argued I was paranoid and vindictive, but the evidence contradicted every claim. The judge's decision was swift and decisive. After the hearing, Maya's lawyer approached mine with a proposal. Maya would agree to permanent no contact if I dropped the restraining order. The offer revealed her true concern. The public record was affecting her ability to rebuild her life. I refused. The restraining order was non-negotiable. This legal victory marked another turning point. Maya realized I wouldn't be manipulated or intimidated into dropping my protections. Her options were narrowing, and her frustration was evident in the increasingly desperate indirect attempts to gather information about me. The restraining order extension triggered exactly the response I'd anticipated. Maya's online activity exploded across multiple platforms. She created elaborate posts painting herself as a victim of sibling jealousy, carefully omitting documenting every dangerous action she'd taken. Her narrative gained traction among certain online communities that specialized in perceived injustices. I discovered this through my monitoring systems when several anonymous accounts began probing my social media presence. The language patterns matched Maya's writing style perfectly. She was building an army of sympathizers, people who believed her fabricated story of persecution. My security consultant recommended expanding our digital footprint analysis. We discovered Maya had been systematically contacting my professional connections through fake recruiter profiles, fishing for information about my schedule and responsibilities. 3 separate colleagues reported suspicious LinkedIn messages, asking detailed questions about our team structure. The pattern revealed her next target, my upcoming industry conference presentation. This opportunity represented everything Maya couldn't stand: professional recognition, peer respect, and tangible career advancement. I knew she'd make her move there. I implemented a comprehensive security plan for the conference. My employer agreed to register me under a department pseudonym, book accommodations separately from other attendees, and provide discreet security presence. Nancy personally coordinated with conference organizers to ensure Maya couldn't access the venue. 2 weeks before the conference, Maya's desperation manifested in a new tactic. She began contacting my boyfriend's family, spinning tales of my supposed mental instability and manipulation. His mother received tearful phone calls from a concerned family member, warning about my dangerous behavior. His sister found anonymous letters in her mailbox detailing fabricated incidents. My boyfriend's family, thankfully, saw through the manipulation immediately. They'd witnessed enough of my security measures to understand the real situation. His mother began documenting every contact attempt, adding to our ever-growing evidence file. His family's support proved invaluable during this escalation. Maya's next move targeted my professional reputation more directly. She created a sophisticated fake website mimicking our company's design, populated with fabricated client testimonials criticizing my work. She then began an email campaign directing potential clients to this site, hoping to sabotage my department's growth. Our IT team discovered the fraud within hours. They traced the domain registration through several proxy services, but the payment method led back to Maya's new credit card. This constituted a clear violation of the restraining order, direct harassment affecting my employment. We finally had grounds for criminal charges. I met with the district attorney's office, presenting our meticulously documented case. The prosecutor reviewed everything: the attempted murder through brake tampering, the identity theft, the corporate espionage, and now the criminal harassment. The evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. The prosecutor offered a deal. Maya could plead guilty to lesser charges and receive mandatory psychiatric treatment with monitoring, or face trial for attempted murder and multiple felonies. The choice would be hers, but arrest was imminent either way. I struggled with the decision to move forward. Despite everything, part of me still remembered the sister who'd shared my childhood. But Maya had chosen this path repeatedly, escalating despite every opportunity to stop. My safety and sanity required decisive action. The arrest happened at our parents' house during a family dinner. I wasn't present, but Mom called me afterward, sobbing. Maya had fought the officers, screaming about conspiracy and injustice. Dad finally saw the full extent of her delusions as she ranted about her plans to reclaim her rightful place. Maya's lawyer contacted mine within hours, desperately negotiating. The evidence against her was insurmountable. Her online activities, the fake website, the documented harassment, everything pointed to a pattern of escalating criminal behavior. She faced potential decades in prison if convicted on all charges. The negotiations revealed more disturbing information. Maya had been planning something she called the final solution, a detailed scheme to frame me for embezzlement at work, while simultaneously destroying my relationship and friendships. The prosecutor found these plans on her seized electronics, adding conspiracy charges to her growing list. I attended the preliminary hearing, sitting in the gallery with my support network. Maya appeared in orange jumpsuit and shackles, her carefully maintained image finally shattered. She tried to catch my eye, but I focused on the proceedings. The judge reviewed the charges, each one a consequence of her choices. Maya's parents hired a prestigious defense attorney who immediately pushed for a psychiatric evaluation. The results confirmed what I'd long suspected: narcissistic personality disorder with antisocial features. The evaluation detailed her inability to accept responsibility and her persistent belief that she was entitled to whatever I had achieved. The prosecutor presented a modified deal based on the psychiatric findings. Maya would plead guilty to reduced charges, serve 2 years in a secure psychiatric facility, followed by 5 years of intensive monitoring and continued treatment. Any violation would result in immediate incarceration for the full sentence. Maya initially refused, insisting on her innocence despite overwhelming evidence. Her attorney spent days explaining the futility of trial. The brake tampering alone could result in attempted murder conviction. The corporate espionage carried federal charges. The identity theft and harassment charges would likely run consecutively. I received a letter from Maya through her attorney. It wasn't an apology. She remained incapable of that. Instead, it was a rambling manifesto about how I'd stolen her life, her future, her identity. The letter itself became evidence of her continued delusions and inability to accept reality. The conference approached amid this legal chaos. I refused to let Maya's situation derail my professional growth. My presentation focused on innovative security protocols, ironically inspired by my personal experiences. The audience responded enthusiastically, unaware of the real-world testing behind my recommendations. Maya finally accepted the plea deal after her attorney showed her the potential trial outcomes. The security footage of her brake tampering had been recovered from a nearby business. Her digital footprint revealed years of planning and escalation. Trial would mean certain conviction and decades of imprisonment. The sentencing hearing provided closure I hadn't expected. The judge read victim impact statements from Maya's previous targets, young women whose lives she'd disrupted years earlier. Their courage in coming forward strengthened the case for maximum psychiatric intervention. Maya sat stone-faced throughout, still unable to acknowledge her actions. I submitted a written statement rather than speaking in court. I detailed the fear, the constant vigilance, the professional obstacles, and the family destruction Maya had caused. But I also expressed hope that treatment might finally address the underlying issues that drove her behavior. The judge accepted the plea agreement with modifications. Maya would serve 3 years in psychiatric facility, not 2. Her post-release monitoring would include regular polygraph polygraph tests to ensure compliance. Any contact attempt, direct or indirect, would result in immediate return to custody. Maya was remanded immediately after sentencing. As officers led her away, she turned back one final time. Her expression held no remorse, only cold calculation. I knew then that her treatment would be a long, difficult process with no guaranteed outcome. The aftermath brought unexpected challenges. Our parents struggled with guilt and grief. They'd enabled Maya's behavior for years, sacrificing my well-being for her comfort. Now they faced the consequences of those choices. Their marriage barely survived the strain. I established firm boundaries with my parents. Our relationship could rebuild, but only with family therapy and clear acknowledgement of past dynamics. They agreed, desperate to salvage something from the wreckage. Progress came slowly, with many difficult conversations about favoritism and enabling. My professional life flourished without Maya's constant interference. The conference presentation led to consulting opportunities and speaking engagements. Nancy promoted me to department head, recognizing my contributions to company security protocols. Success felt different now, earned through perseverance rather than just merit. The security measures I'd implemented became permanent fixtures in my life, not from paranoia, but from hard-learned wisdom. I maintained situational awareness, protected my personal information, and trusted my instincts. Maya had inadvertently taught me valuable survival skills. My relationship with my boyfriend deepened through shared adversity. He'd witnessed the worst of my family dysfunction and chosen to stay. We built our connection on honesty, security, and mutual respect. When he proposed a year later, I said yes without hesitation. The wedding planning revealed how much I'd grown. I implemented security protocols without apology, screening vendors, and limiting information sharing. Our celebration would be joyful, but protected. Maya's absence felt like freedom rather than loss. Mom attended the wedding, finally accepting her role in enabling Maya's behavior. She'd completed months of therapy, working to understand how her favoritism had fostered such dysfunction. Dad came too, our relationship slowly healing through honest communication and accountability. The investigator provided final reports on Maya's status. She remained in treatment, her progress minimal but present. The facility reported she'd begun acknowledging some actions, though full accountability remained elusive. Her therapist warned that personality disorders required years of intensive work. I chose to maintain the restraining order despite Maya's incarceration. Legal protection provided peace of mind as I built my new life. The order would remain in effect throughout her treatment and monitoring period, a paper shield against future contact attempts. My cousin remained my closest confidant through everything. We'd weathered this storm together, our bond strengthened by shared vigilance and mutual support. She served as my maid of honor, understanding the significance of celebrating without fear. The wedding day arrived without incident. Security discreetly monitored the venue, but no threats materialized. I walked down the aisle feeling truly free for the first time in years. Maya's shadow no longer darkened my happiness. Our honeymoon included no social media posts or location sharing. These habits, born from necessity, had become second nature. Privacy wasn't paranoia, but self-preservation. We celebrated quietly, safely, joyfully. Returning to work, I found my experiences had unexpected value. Other employees facing stalking or harassment sought my advice. I developed company protocols for supporting staff through similar situations. My trauma transformed into expertise that helped others. The one-year anniversary of Maya's sentencing passed quietly. Her treatment reports showed minimal progress. She'd learned to mimic appropriate responses without genuine understanding. The facility recommended extended treatment, which the court approved. Public safety outweighed her preferences. I built my life deliberately now. Career advancement came through careful planning and strategic thinking. Relationships developed slowly, with clear boundaries and mutual respect. Every choice reflected hard-won wisdom about human nature and self-protection. My story spread through professional networks, though I shared it selectively. Other targets of family violence found hope in my survival. I spoke at security conferences about personal protection, turning trauma into teaching opportunities. My experiences helped others recognize and escape similar situations. The restraining order renewal came automatically now, the court recognizing the ongoing need. Maya's facility reports indicated continued treatment resistance. She maintained her victim narrative despite years of therapeutic intervention. Some people, I learned, chose their delusions over difficult truths. I achieved professional recognition through my own merits. Industry publications featured my security protocols. Colleagues sought my expertise on threat assessment. The success Maya had tried to steal flourished beyond her reach. My marriage strengthened through conscious effort and communication. We built our home with security in mind. Cameras, alarms, and careful information management. These precautions felt normal now, integrated seamlessly into daily life. 5 years after leaving home, I'd built everything Maya tried to destroy. Career success, loving relationships, genuine friendships, and hard-won peace. The cost had been high. Innocence lost, family fractured, trust rebuilt slowly, but I'd survived and thrived despite her best efforts. The final facility report arrived on a quiet Tuesday. Maya had been approved for supervised release to a halfway house. Strict conditions applied: continued therapy, medication compliance, employment restrictions, and zero contact with victims. Any violation meant immediate return to custody. I felt no fear at this news, only resolve. My life was protected by layers of security, legal documentation, and supportive community. Maya had taught me vigilance, and I'd learned the lesson well. She could rejoin society under supervision, but she'd never again access my world. I filed updated protection orders with Maya's release information. Local law enforcement received her photo and details. My security network activated. Everyone alert but not alarmed. Preparation prevented panic. Life continued forward, each day building on the foundation of hard-won stability. I mentored young professionals, sharing wisdom about workplace security and personal boundaries. My experiences, processed through years of therapy, became tools for helping others protect themselves. The girl who'd eaten instant oatmeal standing up, forgotten and dismissed, no longer existed. In her place stood a woman who'd faced attempted murder, survived sophisticated harassment, and built success despite family betrayal. Maya's obsession had forged me into someone stronger than either of us had imagined possible. I chose my battles carefully now, understanding that some people remained unsafe regardless of time or treatment. Maya would always be dangerous to me, her narcissism too deep for real change. change, but I'd learned to protect myself, to build boundaries that held, to create success she couldn't touch. My story wasn't about revenge or reconciliation. It was about survival, growth, and the decision to build rather than destroy. While Maya served her sentence and faced her demons, I'd constructed a life of purpose, security, and joy. The responsible twin had become the resilient survivor, and that transformation was my greatest victory.